Hello, this is Saw is War, and it is a great week to talk about wrestling because Roman Reigns is back, and Smackdown is once again pretty much can't miss every week now. Before I get into all that, though, do want to run through the week in review, kind of hit on some of the major talking points, things going on in the world of pro wrestling, and say that I'm sorry. I was out last week. I went on a kind of like a last summer vacation type thing to see some family, and I said I'm going to record the best SummerSlam predictions video people have ever seen. I sat down, I recorded 45 minutes of the most accurate predictions anyone has ever heard, down to how matches would end, how storylines would continue, all the swerves, just about everything. I stopped recording it, said that what a banger, can't wait to post this, went back to grab it, and it was gone. Wouldn't open, just a blank screen in my recording app. It was awful. It was 2:30 in the morning, and I said, I gotta leave tomorrow morning. 6-hour drive ahead of us. I'm gonna have to devastate the people and not give them this perfect prediction for SummerSlam. And you know what? It was perfect. I got just about everything right. SummerSlam was a great show. I even had some of my family put it on for a while. They were nice enough to put it on while we were out there visiting. And it was really, really well booked. And I saw a lot of people say, pretty similar things like, oh man, I had, basically everything predicted down to the final details. But I didn't really look at that as like a bad thing or like it impacted the show negatively. Like, if anything, it kind of just shows that everyone's, up to date with the storytelling, and more importantly than that, the stories are unfolding in ways that, audiences want to see them unfold. And I think it also is kind of a testament, and I'm going to contradict this in probably like 10 minutes, but it seems like a pretty good example that WWE under Triple H is not booking things for the sake of swerving the crowd. Like, if this was like a Vince McMahon SummerSlam a couple years ago, there would never have been a chance that everything went exactly how everyone thought it was going to. There would have been some weird random swerve for no reason but to say, no, they didn't see it coming. The audience didn't know. But this was a little bit more satisfactory. Clearly, tons more storylines, tons more stories to go. It's not like WrestleMania where, you have that season finale type of feeling. And we're like 3 weeks away from Bash in Berlin already. And 2 weeks away, if you can believe it, from AEW's All In. So there's all sorts of stuff to get through. And we will get to Roman Reigns and his return to SmackDown and what that is going to mean. He returned at the end of SummerSlam to help Cody Rhodes retain the title, turning and hitting Solo Sikoa with a Superman punch and a spear. He is like the most over person in wrestling right now. Once again, it is the long, slow process, the realization of a dream that WWE management had years ago for Roman Reigns to unironically be the biggest babyface in wrestling, getting the loudest ovations by far of the night. And it creates a real interesting dynamic. So I will get into that in a little bit. But first, want to run through the weeks. We will go through WWE's side of things, and then we will go through AEW's, and then we will hit that main topic with Roman Reigns and just what his return does to SmackDown as a whole show. So Monday Night Raw, I would say, was dominated by probably two big things, and it's not going to be a surprise when I say what they were. It was the in-ring debut of the Wyatt Sicks, and it was the continuing deconstruction of the Judgment Day. Judgment Day 2.0 is here, and much like Bloodline 2.0, it's clearly going to take a little bit of time to get everything sorted out properly, but something that Judgment Day 2.0 has going for it that Bloodline 2.0 did not at the start is that people hate Dominic Mysterio. People absolutely, I have never seen a heel turn more heel. And he did that at SummerSlam. It's unbelievable. The man is doing unbelievable work that I think we need to just kind of stop and applaud at this point. Like, I cannot believe the stuff that my guy is doing out here. And also, all credit to everyone involved in this storyline and to all of the creative on Monday Night Raw, because Damian Priest is a mega super baby face, and I did not expect that at all when all of this started. Like, he has busted his ass to really establish himself well, and he had a great match with Gunther. Like, the two of them were awesome at SummerSlam. One of probably the best matches of the night in terms of in-ring performance and storytelling and just the drama of it all. So he really has come out of all of this looking like $1,000,000. And, you know, obviously Rhea Ripley is probably the biggest women's babyface, if not just babyface on the Raw roster right now. And you know she's going to get those huge ovations because everyone loves her. But the two of them together in the ring after clearing house, like, wow. I did not expect it to be that type of reaction for them. And it's cool that this is just getting started, because I think really for Priest, he can only go up from here. Like, it was incredible to see. I'm really happy for him, because it's clear how hard he's worked for it. And, you know, I was kind of hoping that this was going to be like, okay, Finn Balor can kind of get back to, you know, main event, like, area. He can get back to being like a front-facing pillar of, you know, every storyline he's involved in, rather than kind of being in the shadows a little bit here and there, as he has through the back half of this Judgment Day storyline. But I really don't know. Like, obviously you would want the heel to win for a while and, like, continue to establish themselves, but Priest, he might just be so over that it doesn't matter, and fans just want to see him win. Like, I'm really curious. Like, I did not expect any of this to happen, but Judgment Day 2.0 is just everyone, but it's Liv Morgan instead of Rhea Ripley, and no Damian Priest. So it's a little bit more of an interesting dynamic. So you have Dom and Liv, you have JD McDonough and Finn Balor, and you have Carlito. And it kind of takes away a bit of the intimidation that they had, so I'm wondering if this is going to mean more, like, underhanded tactics and cheating, which was already, like, a pretty big part of, you know, the main point of Judgment Day's heel run, with, you know, everyone kind of interfering in everyone's matches. But without Priest and Rhea Ripley there as, like, the heavies, I don't know if it's going to be too much of the same and not enough, like, diversity, mixing it up. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen. And then for the Wyatt Sicks, they looked amazing in the ring. They had a 6-man tag match with American Made, which is the name that is now Chad Gable and the Creed brothers. Great name. Better than American Alpha, 100%. Like, put the shirt out now and I will order one. That is a much better name. American Made for those three guys. Probably Ivy Nile when she joins up. Like, perfect. Just start printing money now. That's beautifully done. And the in-ring work for the Wyatt Sicks was, you know, I think something everyone was really excited to see, because, you know, the presentation of Bray Wyatt creations and you know, Wyatt's characters has always been kind of a mixed results type of thing, where, you know, the character's really intriguing, but the second he loses a match or anything, it kind of just unravels. So obviously we don't know what's going to happen, you know, that far down the line, but for this first in-ring performance, these guys nailed it. It was Eric Rowan, Dexter Lumis, and Joe Gacy, and they looked like just a million, but as good as you could imagine. Dexter Lumis in particular was pulling things out that I did not know he had in his bag. So either he has just been in the lab working like this, or he just has been waiting with knowing he could do all of this and has just been waiting to turn into like a high flyer, which was crazy. Like I said, I picture him as such a bruising type. Like, you picture just that heavy offense, and here he was like just flying around, bumping around. It was awesome. It really stood out. So I don't think this is the end of their feud with Gable and the Creeds, but it was a really great first in-ring match. But now the big thing is going to be what's going to happen when they do lose, or the first time someone gets the jump on them and lays all of them out. Like, obviously, you know, everything for me has worked up until this point. I've really enjoyed the storytelling. Maybe it could have been a little bit faster for me, like, personally, what I would have liked to see, but I can't argue with the results and with the consistency of the segments they've been producing. So I think for me, the next thing that I'm going to really be looking for is what happens, you know, when that aura kind of gets a little bit like blemished, when they kind of get a little bit put like on the defensive. And then across the rest of Raw, there was one other thing. I mentioned that Bash in Berlin is in a couple weeks, and they wasted no time in starting the build for that card, where new world champion Gunther was surprised during his like first promo as champ by Randy Orton, who will challenge him in Berlin for the title. Randy Orton is a Smackdown star, so I'm sure there will be something that comes into play with some sort of deal between the two sides where Raw gets Orton for a while and SmackDown gets something else. I kind of have thoughts on that that I will get to in the Roman Reigns SmackDown portion of everything, because I kind of see that as kind of the freeway for a certain two people on Raw to make their way to SmackDown to help. But we will, like I said, we will get to that. Orton Gunther obviously had the great King of the Ring final match where Gunther earned the SummerSlam title shot. So I know it'll be a great match. And then also, we had a bit of a breakout moment on Raw where Bronson Reed earlier in the night had told Adam Pearce, I'm pretty frustrated with, sitting around waiting and not getting opportunities. And he decided to grab his opportunity by just destroying Seth Rollins with, I think it was 6 tsunami finishers from the top rope. They really went all out to make this a moment. Seth Rollins is in the middle of the ring, writhing around, coughing up blood onto the mat. Like, the camera's, like, awkwardly, like, staying on him, like, as you watch him, like, really try to get this blood out. So that was a little, like, weird, funny thing that I noticed. But this was as effective a star-making performance in one night as I have seen on a Monday Night Raw. This crowd was coming unglued every time he went back up to go for it again. And, kind of interesting. It makes me wonder if they're going to use that to kind of facilitate a heel turn for Seth Rollins at any point. But it did then come out after that Seth is hurt. Not to the point of any extended time missed or anything. They said he could wrestle if he absolutely needed to, if they needed him. But this is a chance to get him some time to just rest up and avoid overexertion or further injuring himself anymore, which is nice. It's nice to see them take that approach. It's nice to see people, get the time off that they need before it becomes like, okay, now we have no choice. Rollins has been, I think, the MVP of the company for a long time. It's probably Rollins and Cody Rhodes over the last few years in terms of what they have meant to their brands and the shows and night in and night out. So it's a smart way to write him off, because now you take Bronson Reed and make him look like just an unstoppable badass. And like it really is the perfect example of making lemonade out of lemon. And then in the women's division, Dakota Kai is also injured. They did not specify what is wrong with her, what she's dealing with. She was written out of her match on Monday with Shayna Baszler. She was attacked backstage before the match by Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Sonya Deville. So who knows what the timetable will be with that, but that's a huge loss as well for the women's division and for Damage Control, who are really trying to reestablish themselves since Io lost the title and since the whole Bayley split and the move to Raw. They just kind of haven't had the same presentation. So hopefully something gets sorted there, because those guys are all way too talented to not be used consistently, like in prominent spots on the cards. And then NXT, we had night 2 of the Great American Bash, which continued NXT's really strong, smart booking strategy for the most part. There were some great matches. Pete Dunne beat Trick Williams in a bit of a surprising match that just kind of, I think, means there's way more to come in this storyline. There was an unbelievable women's North American title match with Kalani Jordan and Tatum Paxley that had the crowd going crazy. Tatum Paxley had a couple moments where I think people really thought she was going to win, and it was cool to see the crowd get behind her, like, just immediately. Like, they were just completely bought in, and I think that really helped the overall drama of the match, because beforehand I was like, kind of clear what's going to happen here, but, hopefully it's a good match, to in the match being like, maybe they are going to surprise us, but still too early to take the title off of Kalani Jordan. This is hers to establish this first run and to really, get the title off to a strong start, which I think she has, with pretty consistently good to great matches when she has been given, the opportunities. She has stepped up just about every time. And it was great. It was great to see. And Tatum Paxley is someone that is still, probably way too underutilized for the ability that she has to generate heat and create sympathy in a match. We also got more Joe Hendry. Never enough Joe Hendry as far as I'm concerned. He took on Joe Coffey in a match that stemmed from a segment last week where the Gallus guys beat him up in the middle of his concert segment. And it just feels like we're getting closer and closer to, like, TNA and WWE just actually doing a legitimate sports style trade to get Joe Hendry. All the reports say his contract is good through, like, the end of 2025, but he feels like someone that is just made for NXT and WWE's main roster presentation. Like, he is just unbelievably so over. The crowd was so off tune and off key trying to sing to his music when he came out, and I don't know why. It was so weird. They were like a half second ahead of the music and then just never corrected it for some reason. But it also kind of helped the presentation because it's like, man, everyone loves him, everyone knows it, this is crazy. Like, if anything, it just kind of showed more how much everyone knew it. But a really good match with Joe Coffey, and Joe Hendry picks up the win. Sorry, I'm saying Joe so much. It's so many Joes. Joe Hendry picks up the win, and then afterwards cut a promo where he basically said, like, you'll be seeing me around. I'm not going anywhere yet. So of all the beneficiaries of the TNA NXT collaboration, like, Joe Hendry has been able to really capitalize on an already, like, groundswell of support that was going on just on TNA. So the NXT crowd and the WWE crowd being bought in now too is just really, like, a perfect storm of moments for him. And then the other two biggest beneficiaries, I would say, for the NXT-TNA collaboration were the Rascals, were Wesley, Trey Miguel, and Zachary Wentz, who had a main event match as MSK, Wentz, and Wesley against Nathan Frazier and Axiom for the NXT tag titles that MSK never originally lost. They lost the titles because of Zach Wentz being released from the company over all sorts of things that happened that seemed like just a calamity of bad timing and poor decisions. And, it was a shame, and Wesley was left to kind of see what he could do, and what he ended up doing was becoming one of, if not the best North American champion NXT has ever had, and just a mega super babyface in the process. And I think that all makes it even more confusing why they decided to end the Great American Bash Night 2 with Wes Lee shockingly turning heel on his brothers, on the Rascals. He super kicks Trey Miguel, he kicks Zach Wentz with a low blow, and then beats the two of them up some more while the crowd is, like, stunned, and then just walks out. And in the middle of beating them down, he's saying, you left me alone. And I'm usually not one to question Shawn Michaels' booking. I think he is probably the most consistent booker in wrestling right now, week to week. But there's a lot of holes in this Wes Lee heel turn. Mostly him screaming, you left me alone, when it's not like he chose to walk out. It's not like Zach Wentz was like, I'm kind of tired of being the tag team champs, I'm going to leave. Like, no, he got fired. And it's pretty easy to Google and see, like, the circumstances around it and why it maybe was a mistake, and just the damage and the impact that had for years. Forgive me, no pun intended, with TNA Impact. I don't know. It's too early to tell. I was kind of like, I don't think Wesley can be a heel, because that dude is just so intensely likable, and knowing that he went through, like, severe back surgery and recovery, like, how do you boo that? How do you boo, like, that dude who clearly loves it so much? But we'll see. We'll see what happens. He certainly had everyone stunned at the Great American Bash. And then also, because I don't think I should not mention this, Oro Mensah took on Ethan Page for the NXT title. Ethan Page retained, but Oro Mensah continued to be a surprising breakout star. He's really benefited a lot from Metaphor and from his time with Noam Dar. And even though Noam Dar's not there, like he's really getting some great reactions, and he looked good again here. And Ethan Page may not blow people's socks off with his in-ring performances. He may be, a bit more of a steady hand than he is like a high ceiling type performer, but he's exactly who you need to pull these matches out of these guys that are trying to find their footing and trying to establish their in-ring persona and their characters. Like he is the perfect champion for right now, and it's really been a joy to see, because he's always been one of those people that I thought, could do more when given more. Like he could shoulder more. And so to see him now, the champion of NXT, in just a few months of time, and having good, consistent matches with anyone he's wrestled, is really cool to see. So I'm excited to see where this goes. And like I said, it maybe wasn't the most exciting match on a show that was pretty stacked with a lot of big stories and big personalities, but I think it's important to pay attention to the work he's doing and the fact that Oro Mensah is someone that continues to develop and impress as he gets these bigger and bigger opportunities. And then on SmackDown, we already had one title match decided on Raw, and now SmackDown tonight we get confirmation of what Cody Rhodes' Bash at Berlin match will be, and it will be a match versus Kevin Owens, which I don't know if this means we are skirting close towards Kevin Owens betrays Cody Rhodes, here comes the heel turn, or if they're going to just keep him like how he's been. I don't know. He's kind of like, well, maybe not now the Roman's back, but he's kind of like the second or third biggest babyface on the show. So it would be a bit of a shock to see them go away from that with how well he's been excelling in that, but also like gold-hungry, crazy Kevin Owens might be the best Kevin Owens. So it'll be really, really interesting to see what they do from here. And then obviously the big story from SmackDown was the return of Roman Reigns. So I will get to that in a second. Before we get to that, I will go through AEW Dynamite, which, like I said, All In Wembley Stadium 2 is just 2 weeks away now, which seems impossible, but it is getting closer and closer. And AEW keeps having these really good, consistent shows. So we will run through AEW really quick, and then we will get to SmackDown and Roman Reigns. On the AEW side of things, Dynamite, again, was a very consistent show. They are booking things very strongly ahead of All In. Still a little bit of filler and things where it's like, okay, I don't know if we needed this completely. Another weird thing has been the show order has been a little all over the place, but really nitpicky things that I'm not trying to do. I'm watching weekly wrestling shows to be entertained and to enjoy watching the wrestlers that I like. So I'm not trying to, get mad about card orders or segment length or anything, unless it's like a Chris Jericho Learning Tree segment or something. But AEW started unbelievably strong with MJF taking on Kyle Fletcher, who absolutely had a huge star-making performance on this Dynamite against MJF. I was kind of worried it was going to be like a short squash type thing, or it was going to be, but no. They had a competitive, really strong, like 15-20 minute match to open the show, and the crowd was right there for all of it, which definitely helps too with making Fletcher look like even more of a star. And, he's had great performances when he has been on AEW television. That's not a surprise. What's cool is getting to see him be booked like, not like an equal, but like on, performance-wise going blow for blow with MJF, who is, probably one or two of the like top star in the company, and maybe not two. Like, it's really cool to see him get that spot. And sure, it's probably partly to test him, but I think he really excelled here. And hopefully it just means that there's more and more prominent roles and prominent matches and feuds and storylines coming for him. Because he is very close to being just an absolute megastar. He's got everything you could want from a young wrestler on the rise. There was a sit-down interview as well with Swerve Strickland and JR. I will say really quick, there was a lot of reports of superstars being stranded with travel issues and flight cancellations and all sorts of problems. So some people were not able to make it to the show, which seems like it led to a bit of a reshuffling on some things. But there was a segment between Swerve Strickland and Jim Ross where they had a sit-down interview talking about Swerve's title match with Bryan Danielson coming at All In, and what that would mean, and what Bryan Danielson putting his career on the line means, and how Swerve felt about it. It was really good, strong work once again from Swerve, but I could not help but be distracted with how just like tired and just out of it JR looked. Like, he looked like someone that just needed some rest and some recuperation, and it looked like he was back too soon. He is definitely someone that has had his share of medical issues, but if he wants to be back at work, if that's what makes him happy and that's what he enjoys doing, more power to him. I'm not here to sit here and shame anyone for doing what they love, especially when they've been going through medical issues or things on their time, and they've decided that that's what they want to do to either stay strong in these moments or to kind of get back to a normal routine. So I will say it was noticeable to me, or it felt like to me, that he looked like he really needed some more rest and some more recovery, but essentially doing this now just because he loves it, like you cannot take anything away from that. There is a reason he is so highly revered in the wrestling industry, and it's because he lives and breathes and loves it. And that is pretty clear. There was unfortunately another pre-taped segment that did not go quite as smoothly as the JR Swerve promo, and it was Jack Perry's promo ahead of his match with Darby Allin at All In, where he was cutting this promo about taking things away, and then it cut to a Taco Bell commercial, like a 15-second Taco Bell commercial, and then it cut back to him smashing TVs with a hammer, and then it was over. And it was bizarre. I don't know what happened. It's a really unfortunate interruption for him, because he has done so well with the scapegoat character. It has worked on so many levels, and it has been really, really money for him to grow into a heel persona and really break away and distance himself from all of the Jungle Boy stuff. So it's a bummer to have this misstep, but also Nikola Jokic was drafted in a Taco Bell commercial, and he's a 3-time MVP and an NBA champion, and just almost beat Team USA with Serbia in the Olympics. Like, came so close to doing that too. So, maybe a Taco Bell commercial interruption is not the worst thing that can happen. There were also a few announcements out of AEW this week that I just want to mention really quick. There's going to be a new show debuting Saturday night after Collision that is going to be called TNT Overdrive, which sounds kind of like AEW ridiculousness. Almost like, I'm curious to see what it's going to look like, but it's going to be I think it said high adrenaline, high octane videos with AEW stars commenting on them and sharing their own personal stories, which is a pretty good sign to AEW sticking around with Warner Brothers. Their rights deal and their negotiations has been a pretty prominent and never-ending story for the last few months. So this looks like, a sign that something is heading in the right direction, or we might be getting an announcement sometime soon. Then there was this random Britt Baker MJF feud that ended with the reveal that Britt Baker was suspended for a few weeks from AEW. And MJF allegedly punched a hole in the wall. They've apparently had a huge falling out after being close friends, but there was no word on what happened. It all sounds like high school drama, honestly, like some misinterpretations that get blown out of proportion, and then no one wants to be the one to admit they're wrong. Like I said, this is all just guessing based on what I've read and seen, but Britt Baker was suspended for a few weeks. She appeared this last week on Dynamite in a pre-taped promo interrupting Mercedes Moné. So it looks like she's back, and this is just going to be a bump in the road. But of course, because it's a backstage incident involving 2 AEW wrestlers, it becomes a massive story. So had to at least mention that. And then also, There's been a bit of talk about superstars switching shows and switching companies when their contracts come up. Obviously, from WWE, there was a lot of reports that Bobby Lashley is basically, out the door ready to sign at 12:01 when his contract expires. MVP is apparently also pretty close to a lock to end up in AEW. He has already left WWE, so we will see. But on the AEW side, there have been some interesting reports that the Lucha Brothers, Rey Fenix and Penta, may be WWE bound and may already have deals and agreements in place, and they're just writing out the end of their contracts waiting for it. And then Ricky Starks, in news that should surprise no one. Ricky Starks is apparently inevitably going to WWE when his contract is up over, his relationship with Cody Rhodes, his close relationship with him. And then also just the nonsensical start-stop booking that he's had, and the lack of use. Honestly, he's clearly had disagreements on his direction and his stories and what they should be, but there's also no reason to not keep working with him to, try to get to something. And there's always rumors around about, Miro and Wardlow and those guys, so we'll see, but those were the names that really prominently were jumping out. And I kind of, Ricky Starks is like a no-brainer for WWE. I could see him working that style. I kind of have a hard time seeing the Lucha Bros in WWE, their style and presentation. I will say a Lucha Bros New Day, Lucha Bros Usos feud would be unbelievable, but I'd be really interested in what them being booked together as the top tag team in WWE would look like. They would also sell 100 billion Penta masks. No doubt in my mind. They would sell so many of those. So if they end up there, that's going to be something really interesting to watch. And then last thing, I wasn't even going to mention this, but I saw it again online. There's a report going around that people were talking about the Young Bucks hitting their 20th anniversary in wrestling as a team. And there was a report that Tony Khan is who books them. He books all of the Young Bucks stories and all of their everything so that they aren't in a conflict with themselves booking, their stories. And they equated it to, the article I read equated it to how WWE would use Brock Lesnar, where it's we don't want to use all of his dates back to back to back to back to back. We got to be sparing with it. And that kind of surprised me, because the Young Bucks apparently have just a set number of dates that they're signed to. And so Tony Khan does the booking and goes off of that accordingly. And it was interesting. I don't know why. I never really thought about it. I never really gave it much thought, but it seems just, it's something to note. I don't think it's going to lead to anything or mean anything. I just think it's interesting, and it's something that I'm just going to file away. Just in case. Just keep it in the back of my mind there. And finally, main topic of the day is Roman Reigns and his return to Smackdown. It was his first time being seen in Smackdown since before WrestleMania. Obviously, a lot has happened with the creation of the Bloodline 2.0, their decimation and betrayal of Paul Heyman, who has not been seen since they laid him out, and their beatdown of Jimmy Uso too, who has not been seen since they decided he was out as well. So Roman Reigns came back, and there were all sorts of reports and things about what his storyline could be, about so many people fantasy booking what his return would look like, and if they would take a little bit and have him, pretend to fall in line or be cool with everything or what, and instead immediately came right out and said, nah, we're not doing that. He's going to come in, he's going to be pissed, and he's just going to kick ass. And I think that again, is just a hats off to WWE Creative for how they've been able to build Roman to this point now, which is all they had wanted for years, was for him to be that big monster baby face that got those pops, had the crowd eating out of the palm of his hand. And now, in his return at SummerSlam and his first appearance on SmackDown tonight, it is clear he is that dude. And it opens up a lot of interesting directions for SmackDown to go in general. Obviously, there is a third match waiting for Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. That is inevitable. There is a feud with The Rock that is hanging over everything that is probably inevitable at some point. There is the match with Solo, which is inevitable, and all of the individual Bloodline members, inevitable. And then, of course, the Bloodline versus the Bloodline 2.0. The Survivor Series, the Civil War, whatever you want to call it. That is probably where we're going next, with Survivor Series being the next big show that they have going on. Like, it just makes too much sense for Roman to spend the next couple months getting the band back together and reassembling Bloodline, original Bloodline, OTC, Original Tribal Chief, or Official Tribal, I don't remember what it stands for. I think the OTC is the Official Tribal Chief, but original just makes sense to me. I don't know, it just sounds right to say it. So he's going to have to come around and be like, hey guys, I need you. I know things weren't good last time. And that's going to probably create, honestly, a ton of drama for them to explore and to go into over the next month or two, as like the like, I don't want to say tribalism, but like as the war between the two groups just escalates further and further. Because, you know, one thing about Roman Reigns is he is going to bump for his family. He is going to make them look like $1,000,000. It feels like, you know, when they sat down to do the original run of Bloodline storylines, like the main goal was to make Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso like individual main event stars. And I mean, it's literally the dude's name. Main event Jey Uso. Like, job accomplished, I think. So I think now we turn that towards Solo and Tama Tonga and, you know, Tonga Loa to a lesser extent, Jacob Fatu, who give that man everything. So it's going to be, you know, run it back, change it up, and the crowds are going to go crazy because he has hit that point. And I think it's smart. It's smart to keep him as busy as they possibly can with anything that is not Cody Rhodes in the title, because I don't know what the plan is for Cody Rhodes and his title reign and how long he's going to hold this belt, but it's crazy to say, like, Roman's back, and it's clear, you know, things kind of level up when he's back, and putting the title on him is not the craziest thing, and it wasn't the craziest thing to keep it on him. Obviously, the part-time schedule and the belt not being consistently defended or on TV is, you know, not ideal. It's not what you want. So I don't know if they would ever go that direction again, but it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough if he just keeps coming out and having segments like he did tonight on Smackdown, where he obliterates everyone in the ring and then destroys someone with a chair, and the crowd's going nuts and doing his like promos and chants and stuff with him. It's going to be hard to ignore. Obviously, Cody Rhodes is, you know, probably still the biggest star in wrestling. Maybe, you know, now that Roman's back, I think there's an interesting debate to be had there too. But it really puts WWE in an interesting spot. And they were already, you know, in a pretty good spot with the product hotter than it has been in decades. And now you're bringing in another supernova level star, a massive babyface to come in. And I think it's going to get a little crowded at the top. I think that might be why you're seeing, you know, Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes for the title in Berlin. And, you know, if Kevin Owens turns heel, makes sense, because, you know, you're going to need some top heels that have justifiable reasons to be mad at Roman Reigns. Like, it's gonna unfold exactly like the Jey Uso story went with Drew McIntyre, where Jey Uso gets brought to Raw, and Drew McIntyre is like, hey, no, this dude screwed me out of so many opportunities. And then, boom, we're on that descent into Drew McIntyre's now a full-fledged heel, but people are cheering for him because he's not wrong. Like, he's telling the truth. He's justifiable in his rage here. And it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to shake SmackDown up a lot. If not already, it is shaking SmackDown up a lot. And obviously, you know, this is bringing in another final boss level, not to disparage The Rock, but like, this is bringing in another top tier 1A main event star. And so now you have these two, just like, I don't want to say supernovas again. You have these two massive stars. These two could not be hotter than they are right this second stars with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. And you have to keep them apart as long as you can, because if they run this story and they go the route of Roman Reigns needing Cody Rhodes to be the last one to help with OG Bloodline versus Bloodline 2.0, its mega powers explode or it's nothing, because those two guys cannot not get together and, you know, have that third match eventually. Like, that's going to be hanging over everything, and all logic and booking is going to be like, okay, these guys need to have this match. They said it tonight in his first SmackDown appearance. Cody Rhodes came out and was like, oh, Roman Reigns, you know, I want to give the shot to Kevin Owens. But then Nick Aldis is like, no, Roman Reigns is back. Roman Reigns gets the title shot. And it became this whole thing. And, you know, we got Kevin Owens, obviously. But they are already mentioning Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns 3. So it's just a matter of time. And getting there is going to be the most interesting thing. Because do you keep both of them babyface? Do you turn one of them heel? I can't imagine turning either of them heel where they're at the levels they are at now. The crowd was literally chanting, we want Roman. Like, since he's been gone, they've been chanting it at Solo Sikoa. So, I don't know. WWE finally has everything they wanted and more from Roman Reigns and from everything they could have hoped for with him. And it comes to just such an interesting time where everything is firing on all cylinders. What a good problem for Triple H and them to have, because it keeps everyone on their toes. It hopefully raises the level of everything across the show, because everything has to match, you know, the best segments, I would assume. And they get to bring an undeniable superstar back. And it is cool to see. It is good to have Roman Reigns back on TV. I'm very interested in what his schedule is going to look like going forward. If the Tribal Chief part-time stuff was, you know, part of the character, and if he's going to be a more, you know, consistent figure on television going forward now. He, like I said, he appeared tonight and laid out everyone, so I can't imagine he just won't be there next week. But who knows? That's part of the fun of the Bloodline story, is trying to figure out where it's going to go. And, you know, I think that's everything. I think that's everything I got. So if there's anything I missed, or if you have any thoughts on Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, how you would handle all of this, how you would book these two guys heading into, you know, the final run of pay-per-views for the year, or if you have any thoughts on Raw, if you want to see, you know, Randy Orton claim another world title, if you have any thoughts on anything that has happened or anything that I missed, please drop them in the comments, or I will put an email address in the show notes and descriptions as well. You can always email that with anything you would like. I close every week running through some of the best matches of the week in case you missed them, so you have time to go back and watch them before the next week starts up. That is every show. It has not changed. So thank you all very much for watching, listening, wherever you are getting your videos or podcasts from. Here are those matches. Like I said, I hope everyone has a good weekend and enjoy the week. On Monday Night Raw, we have the Wyatt Sicks in-ring debut versus American Made. On Tuesday NXT, we have Kalani Jordan versus Tatum Paxley for the WWE NXT North American Women's Championship. And on AEW Wednesday Dynamite, we have Kyle Fletcher versus MJF one-on-one. Thank you guys for watching.